Hi everybody, this is Adam Franti again. About a year ago I did a video I called Studies in Opportunity. I was intending to do a lot more videos just like that, and this is the first one I've gotten around to. This is an exchange that I fought with a student of mine. The student has had a couple years of experience. We have been working quite a lot on extrapolation of the basic words, and there's an exchange coming up that I think was really remarkable. And I wanted to take some time to talk about it because I think what we're going to talk about is one of the things that I think is most commonly confused amongst people who are attempting to derive practical advice about fencing from the fencing texts. So let's watch the exchange, sort of see what sticks out, and then we're going to go back and we're going to talk about what happened. All right, so right about here, I have disengaged from I've disengaged from a bind in which I really had no opportunity to get closer or to hit my student, and I've backed out just far enough, and this is literally the frame before I start walking forward again. So let's watch this again in real time and see what happens. So back here again, there are a couple of really important blade dynamics I want to talk about as we advance this sort of frame by frame, right? So I'm coming forward, and the very first thing I do is I'm stepping forward in the Zufechten. I'm safe enough because I'm far enough away that if my opponent decides to go strong against my sword and try to thrust, I will have enough time to react and move out of the way before his thrust lands, because we are in the Zufechten. We are too far away to hit each other, even with both of our arms extended. So I'm stepping forward. At the same time I step forward, I probe my point forward to find if my opponent is hard or soft. Now, this is, again, something that gets very commonly confused in the HEMA world, right? A lot of people think that strong and weak and hard and soft are describing the same thing. They are not, at least not according to Meyer. Earlier 15th century texts might have different derivations of this, and I understand that there's some grammatical issues about the use of the words strong and weak and hard and soft in the German texts. But as far as I am concerned, and as far as I have derived Meyer and make use of it in my own fencing, strong and weak and hard and soft are totally separate things. They are different. You can be strong and soft, and you can also be weak and hard. You cannot be hard and soft at the same time, and you cannot be strong and weak at the same time, but you can, those pairs interact quite a lot. So the basic question that I had to ask myself when I was reading the text and I was confused about hard and soft and I didn't quite know what strong and weak was yet, I treated them like they were the same thing because it didn't matter. But once I actually developed an embodied sense of Fulin, which is what the books are trying to teach you, it's a very, very clear and stark difference between a position of strength versus you are pressing hard on your opponent's sword. Or rather, your opponent is pressing hard on your sword, right? So right now, I'm essentially just pressing hard on my opponent's sword, moving his point out of the way, and I'm stepping forward into the space that I've created by moving his sword aside. Now, this is essentially an action in which I am taking the initiative. I am taking the fore. I am putting pressure on my opponent, and I'm forcing them to respond to me, because if they don't respond to me, they're going to get hit. So I have taken this isn't the most this isn't the strongest position ever, of course, but I am slightly stronger and I'm pressing his point aside and I'm moving forward into it. Now, you can see my opponent is not fleeing. He's not leaving. He's not running. So if he were trying to get his blade out from under mine, that to me would read on my sword as softness, right? And he's not. He's staying in the bind with me. He knows he has enough space right now because I'm too far away to hit him with one move. So he's staying in the bind and he's pressing against my sword just to keep in contact. So he's hard on my sword, although he's not super duper duper hard on my sword. I just know, because I can feel it, that he is pressing slightly back against my sword, and I know that that means that I can keep this position because he is not yet stronger than me, and he is not yet trying to push my sword out of the way. So what I'm essentially trying to do is give him a pressure cue to give him to respond in one of two ways. He can either go soft completely and try to hit me from somewhere else, right? Fleeing the position that my sword is in and trying to go around and hit me from somewhere else, like an Ablaufen or an Umschlag, or whatever you want to call it, right? Cutting around to somewhere else. So that's soft, right? That's a weak tactical action. He's giving away the space that I've taken and he's trying to go somewhere else. This is the absolute correct thing that you should do if somebody has a strong position in the center and they are coming forward at you. If you have time to move, move. If you have time to put your sword in the way, put your sword in the way. You have to. Otherwise, you get hit. So I'm waiting for my opponent to respond to me. And the thing is that my opponent is confident. My opponent has a lot of experience. My opponent plays in the bind with me a lot. So he doesn't want to go anywhere. And he knows he doesn't have to because I'm too far away to harm him just yet. So he does a very unusual thing in HEMA, and he just waits. He lets a moment ride. And this is fine. I just want everyone listening to know I'm not criticizing my student here. He's doing the right thing. And the thing is, right, that he's doing the right thing. He's giving me a little bit of pressure. And as we see, as we sort of advance frame by frame, right, I'm actually raising my point because my opponent is raising his hands and the strong of his sword higher. So I have to bring my sword higher to keep correspondingly against a weaker part of his sword. So as that happens, right, I know that eventually I might have to turn my hand to wind so that I can put the point in or go for a short edge cut. And because his arms are coming up, it means it's more likely that I'm going to have to go for a short edge cut from above like a shield how, or I have to turn my point in because I don't actually have the room or the time to cut around or to force his hands down. It would take too much work for me and it would open me up to opportunities for my opponent to hit me with his strengthening structure. His structure is getting stronger. He's trying to get stronger against me, though he is still in a weaker position because I occupy the center and he still has to push through me to take it. So this keeps going, right? And he's getting to a point where he's like, well, I'm not quite sure what to do. I am now close enough to be struck. But the thing is, right, my opponent has two choices right now. He can either shove my sword aside as hard as he possibly can, or he can flee this bind and go somewhere else. Now, he has to do that like right now. And the thing is that I'm waiting for him to come off my sword because what I expect him to do is cut around to my high opening on my right side because it's just the obvious thing to do. It's a very fast thing to do with the way his hands are right now. And that's sort of what I'm expecting. I'm expecting to feel a moment of softness. I'm expecting to feel my opponent fleeing the bind because this is an untenable position for him to be in because I am basically one movement away from hitting him and he is at least two movements away from hitting me. So this keeps going. It gets to a point where I realize, well, he hasn't done anything and he's let me get close. I'm close enough to hit, so I'm just winding my point in like this. And I just walk very slowly forward and I put the point right in my opponent's face. Right, and I wanted to highlight this, not because I think I'm like stunting on my student or anything, but because this is a product of my student making correct decisions until he ran out of time. Just like Jean-Luc Picard says, it is possible to make no mistakes and still lose, and that's what happened here, right? Really, the only mistake my opponent made was not acting sooner, but if he acted sooner in a way that I was expecting, he would have gotten hit too, right? So I wanted to highlight this in a sort of a quick video because I think this is a really interesting moment of fencing, and I think that this only happened because my student is confident and is able to stick around in a bind and try to feel out what's happening. And that is, it's exactly what the books are trying to teach you how to do. And the thing is that because he was taking the time that he knew that he had, he was maybe a little bit less cautious about the fact that I was essentially stealing time away from him by getting closer. And the thing that afforded me the ability to get closer was essentially that I occupied that strong position and I never had any reason to give it up. I think that some folks would get to this position here and all they would see is hands. What they would want to do is cut right now, cut right there, hit the hands and withdraw. And, you know, that's fine. That is a thing that you could do very safely from this position. My opponent's hands are quite open. But the reason I don't want to do that, right, is because if I attack here and put my sword here and my opponent's sword is still here, what they're going to do is hit me like that. And I don't want to double. I just don't. I don't want to double even if I hit my opponent before they hit me, because I don't want to get hit at all unless part of the game is my ability to get hit, right? So I'm not just gonna go for that low quality hit to the hands when there's no reason for me to give up my position because I have every advantage. I am stronger, I am more threatening, and I am compelling my opponent's response. Literally, the ball is in his court. I'm waiting for him to do something. And now his most likely way to beat me here is if he waits more or less until I get a bit closer here. And if rather than coming off my sword, like he's doing a little bit, if he pressed forward into me, raised my sword up and went for like a grapple on my arms, or a Durchwinden with his pommel, or he stepped forward to try to grapple my arms or take away my space, I wouldn't have been able to put my point in because he would have gotten close enough that I would then have to do something else to be able to hit him. But it's because he's sort of waiting for me to launch my attack. But I know that I don't need to launch my attack because every single moment he gives me more time and more space and the opportunity to put my point in here like this, right? And if we were to show it from this position, my opponent, if he wants to hit me, can really only drop his sword point down like this and then cut from over here under my hands. And the problem is, right, my sword is still here. My sword's still going this way through his face, right? And he doesn't want that to happen either. So he's unwilling to leave this bind, even though he knows that he might be about to get hit. Now, obviously, the biggest mistake that he made was that once he got to about here, what he should be doing is just raising his arms straight up to get my sword up and out of the way. But again, if he does that, I've got an undercut that's going to come this way. If he pushes my sword aside, maybe toward the camera, right, I'm going to loop around and I'm going to cut over here. Because from this position, I literally have all the options, and all I have to do is wait and see what direction my opponent moves his hands, and I'm going to cut basically behind his hands. That's all you have to do. And if you can reach positions like this in fencing, then this is essentially the goal that you should be pursuing at all times. Because I'm at a point now where I can either hit my opponent perfectly safely because I know they're not moving away to hit me because they're hard on my sword. Or I could wait until they get really hard on my sword and try to push my sword out of the way, and I can cut behind them. I can chase their opening, just like Meyer tells us to do in the text. Or I can just kind of keep this position here because, again, there's no reason for me to do anything else. My opponent is not threatening me. My opponent is not stronger than me. There's no advantage my opponent has that I can't deal with because I have every advantage. I am threatening them, I'm compelling their reaction, and I am also stronger than them. I'm forcing them to either go around my strong position or go through my strong position. And if you can reach positions like that, the next thing that happens is completely and totally natural and completely and totally inevitable, right? That. I just walk the point in and I stick it on his face. And now I'm not laughing at my student because he made a bunch of mistakes. Because like I've said, he didn't make any mistakes. I'm laughing because this is an arrested moment. This is an extended moment of fencing time that usually goes by in an eye blink. And I think it's interesting to highlight this exchange because my opponent was doing nothing wrong. And in addition, as if you were to watch the full video of this bout, you'll see that my opponent actually had his sword was slightly bent and he was slightly distracted by the curve in his sword, which is why he didn't quite react as closely as he might have otherwise. This is also pretty late in the night. We're both fairly tired, right? There's a lot of reasons that this happened this way, but I just want to say this is something that happened as a natural result of the two of us fencing and trying to hit each other. This isn't my opponent being compliant because I'm the teacher. This isn't me being cheeky because I'm the teacher. That's part of it. That's a little part of it because you got to be cheeky if you're the instructor. But I just held that position because there was no reason for me to leave. My opponent held his position because I wasn't giving him any indication of how exactly I was going to attack or continue this. And we are all of us in HEMA so used to act fast, as fast as you possibly can, that it's sometimes bewildering and perplexing to fence somebody who is just confident and still. And when we have somebody that's just sort of walking at you and not giving you the reactions that you think that you need to, it's really sometimes quite confusing to know what to do, right? And this whole thing happens in a fairly short amount of time. It's like 2 seconds, right? 2-3 seconds. But it feels like a lot longer because we're all so used to fencing happening so fast. And the reason fencing happens so fast is because people think they have to move as fast as possible, but the only speed you need to worry about is the speed of causality. I am causing my opponent to react, or I am being caused to react to my opponent, for or nach. If I'm in the nach, I am bound by my opponent's time because they are attacking me. They're setting the limits of time. They're the ones forcing me to react. And if I don't react in time, I lose. I get hit. My opponent just didn't react in time. And I wanted to highlight this again because it's one of these really common kind of fencing moments, but it's so slowed down that you can get a great degree of clarity about what happened just because, again, it's so slow. So let's watch this whole exchange one more time. Strong, strong, strong. Boop. So that's really all. I wanted to make a pretty quick video about this little exchange because I thought it was quite interesting. Again, if you like this kind of thing, if you have questions, if you have an exchange maybe that you want me to do some analysis on that I wasn't part of, I'd be happy to. Feel free to send it in. But again, the key takeaway here is move at the speed of causality, right? Move only when you have to. Assess every single moment on whether or not you are currently threatened and need to move, or if you are the one, or if you're free, more or less, if you are constrained or not, right? If you're constrained, you have to deal with it. If you're not constrained, you have freedom of action and you should be putting pressure on your opponent, if possible, right? And take some time. When you, I hear complaints from a lot of people who are saying people don't like to bind. They don't know what to do. You know, they're always fleeing the bind or whatever. And the thing is, if somebody's always fleeing the bind, then you own the center. And if you own the center, you can compel your opponent to respond to you because you can threaten them faster than they can threaten you because you control the space between you and they are always going around. So if somebody's constantly fleeing binds, you just get to hit them until they bind you. That's how it works. And if you're having trouble with that, maybe work on long point, maybe work on patience, work on owning the center and making sure your opponents have to pay attacks to get through to attack your body. And if you're not doing any of that, go read whatever book you study, and I promise you, the author will tell you how to do that. But the takeaway from this video, take some time, move at the speed of causality, not faster. Speed itself is a noob trap. Causality is the thing that matters.
Guys.